Today, we're going to do more than just read the first 5 chapters of Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. We are going to dig in. We're going to get our hands dirty and go way beyond the basic plot to really understand the foundation of Macomb County, its people, its myths, and all of its deep, quiet injustices.
You know, Harper Lee doesn't just tell you a story. No, she builds an entire world, brick by brick, right in front of your eyes. And the very first brick she lays down, it's the town of Macomb itself.
And this line right here from our narrator, Scout, is the absolute key to everything that follows. See, it's not just an old town, it's a tired old town. That single word sets this mood of stagnation, of a place just worn down by the heat, by its own history, and by the Great Depression. This weariness, it just hangs in the air of the whole story.
So to really unpack all of this, we're going to look at these early chapters through 5 key lenses. We'll start with the town's atmosphere, then we'll map out its social hierarchy, expose its hidden truths, find its moral compass, and finally, we're going to listen for the voices that remain unheard.
Okay, so what does it actually feel like to live in Macomb back in the 1930s? Let's go ahead and step right into Scout's world.
What's so amazing here is how these little details just paint this picture of a town that's literally stuck in the mud. I mean, the streets turn to red slop, and people move slow because, well, there's nowhere to go and no money to do anything with. And yet, there's that little flicker of vague optimism, which is, of course, a direct nod to FDR. Macomb is caught in this limbo between total decay and this fragile, almost whispered sense of hope.
And that tired, stuck atmosphere, it directly shapes the people. In a town this rigid, this set in its ways, everybody has their place. And those places are defined by these invisible lines of power and prejudice.
This grid really shows you just how complex power is in Macomb. It is definitely not just about money. You have Atticus, who has this immense moral authority, yet he's completely powerless against the town's deepest prejudices. Then there's Calpurnia, who runs the Finch house with an iron fist, but she has zero social standing outside its walls. And Boo Radley, a prisoner in his own home, but he controls the entire town's imagination through myth and fear. And Walter Cunningham, who can't even afford lunch, has a kind of personal integrity that, in some ways, makes him richer than almost anybody.
This quote is so incredibly telling. Scout describes Calpurnia's presence as tyrannical, which is hilarious, but the most important part is that Atticus always takes her side. Think about that. In the Finch home, Calpurnia's authority is absolute because it's backed by the ultimate power in that house. This just shatters any simple view of Macomb's social order. It shows us that decency can create these small, important pockets of justice.
All right, let's peel back another layer. One of the biggest ideas in this entire novel is the huge gap between what people think is true and what's actually true. It's all about perception versus reality.
Let's just take the Radley house. The town sees as a horror story, right? It's home to a malevolent phantom, and their pecans will literally kill you. But through Atticus's simple, quiet correction, calling him Mr. Arthur, we, the readers, start to see something totally different, a profoundly sad and incredibly lonely place.
And it's the exact same thing with the Cunninghams. Macomb just sees them as another dirt-poor farm family. But Atticus, he teaches Scout to see what the rest of the town completely overlooks, their powerful moral code. They will not take a single thing they can't pay back. That principle makes them, in a moral sense, one of the wealthiest families in the whole county.
And this is just the perfect illustration of that difference. To everyone else walking by in Macomb, it's just a knothole in a tree. It's invisible. But to Jem and Scout, and to us, it becomes the secret mailbox, a silent line of communication from Boo, filled with these incredible treasures, like polished pennies and soap dolls carved to look just like them. It's a hidden reality, right there in plain sight.
So, with all these conflicting versions of reality floating around, how are we supposed to figure out what's right? Well, don't worry. Atticus gives Scout, and by extension, he gives us, the key.
And this is the crucial point. A single piece of fatherly advice ends up becoming the ethical foundation for the entire book. It's the tool that we need to navigate the complicated, messy world of Macomb.
This is it. This is arguably the most important sentence in the entire book. Atticus isn't just giving Scout a simple trick. He's handing her a moral compass. He is telling her and telling us that empathy is the only true path to understanding. And it's a standard he expects us, as readers, to apply to every single person we meet in this story.
But, applying this lesson isn't so simple, is it?
Scout immediately gets a second lesson in Macomb's ethics. After she tries to see things from her teacher's point of view, she has to ask why the Yule family gets to break all the rules. And Atticus has to explain that sometimes society agrees to be blind to what certain people do. This shows that even the novel's central moral rule has to fight against the messy, contradictory codes of a real, flawed society.
And all of this brings us to our final and maybe our most important question. Who have we not heard from in this story so far? You know, a story is often defined just as much by what it doesn't say as by what it does. So as we're getting our bearings here in Macomb, whose voices are just conspicuously absent?
Well, the two figures who are going to become absolutely central to this novel are almost completely silent. Boo Radley is a phantom, a ghost constructed entirely out of town gossip. He literally cannot speak for himself. And Macomb's black community? They exist only on the edges of the story. We're told they're afraid of the Radley place, but we don't get to hear their stories, or their conversations, or their perspectives. They're defined by others, not by themselves.
And this, right here, is the real takeaway from these opening chapters. The problems Scout runs into aren't just about a new teacher who doesn't get local customs. No, the mythology around Boo, the rigid social order, the special exceptions made for the Yules, and these massive, profound silences. They all point to a systemic unfairness that is woven into the very fabric of Macomb.
This is the question Harper Lee leaves us with right at the beginning of her novel, and the search for that answer in the gifts in the tree, in the whispers on the street, and eventually in the courtroom is what will transform this tired old town and our understanding of it forever.